will it take to make a great wine?
A wine that's never been tasted.
Might take a lifetime.
To our next vintage.
The film is so much about life, and there was so much life on the set because we were in the vineyard and everything was growing all around us, all those bugs and everything, but all the children and all our children, and it was very family orientated set, very loving, very passionate, and it was a wonderful experience. I felt transported, transported into life in the 19th century in Burgundy, but also transported into another world, and a world where an angel could be present in your life, and I thought that was really fertile ground for a movie. And but more than anything, I recognised in the book that even though the setting is very romantic, even though there's an angel in it, it was a story very much about what it means to be human. And that's the way I made the film. And sense of place is very important to me in my work, even with North Country, or Stand Up, I think it was called in Japan. That when I make a film in a place, I really I try very hard to understand the place, and I try really hard to make the film really unique to that place. So, I mean, I think quite a few films, particularly, I suppose more commercial studio films, can be quite generic. They can be shot sort of anywhere, but I like to make films that are absolutely an expression of the place the story exists in. There's a great French word, and it's a word used a lot in the winemaking world called terroir.
Oh yeah,
terroir. Yeah. And that explains that's the concept of a wine tasting of exactly where it comes from, tasting exactly of the hands of the man or the woman that made it. And I think that concept you can apply to film also, and certainly with my films, that they're very much an expression of the place and the people who live in the place.
It's like a movie.
Yeah, winemaking and filmmaking, exactly the same. A very similar journey.
What is the toughest part in this movie?
Well, a couple of things. The schedule, because as you say, we had to shoot the whole year, so all the seasons, but we only had 7 weeks.
Yeah.
But we had 2 hemispheres, so we shot some in New Zealand, and the majority of the film is shot in France, but some of the film is shot in New Zealand. And there is a scene in the film where 2 people are speaking to one another, and one half of the scene was shot in New Zealand and the other half of the scene was shot in France.
Really?
And we cut between them, and you can't tell. And nobody's ever been able to tell me which scene that is.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because when you have quite a low budget and you're trying to do something technically pretty accomplished, you have to be very creative and bold. Maybe you could even say a little bit brazen. When I started to make the film, I was very consciously wanted to make it a very earthy, sensual, tactile film, so that you could really kind of feel the dirt under their fingernails and their sweat, and they're tasting the earth and all of those things. So when it came to making the wings, I didn't want to make them in a computer with CGI. Anyway, we couldn't afford it. So we spent more than 2 years in research and development to make the technology for the wings to move. They are run on a principle of air hydraulics. And working with the circus was so amazing because you can see that you don't need a computer to make somebody fly. Yeah. These circus people, they literally fly through the air. And it was beautiful for me to watch, and very, I got a lot of inspiration was really wonderful. I'm such a huge fan of the circus, of Cirque du Soleil.
Really?
And these people were formerly of Cirque du Soleil, but the company they work for now is called Dragon. And it's a Belgian company, and working with the circus people was amazing. It was a dream come true for me. It's my fantasy of running away and joining the circus came true. Well, the circus came and joined me, which was even better.
Surprised, like Acacia was growing up like so much.
She has. She's grown up, and it was such a privilege for me to. Whale Rider was her first ever movie, so first movie as a child. But I got to direct her in her first movie as an adult. It's an amazing privilege, and I was a little bit nervous. I didn't know if it was going to be different or if it was going to be difficult. And as well as, Celeste, she's very earthy, and she's quite animalistic. She's very superstitious. She's a little crazy. And Keisha is very modest. She's a very modest young woman, and I wondered how we would both handle her having to be particularly very sexy on screen. But she was amazing, and it was effortless. Directing her was exactly the same as an adult as it was when she was a child. We have a very special connection.
What is the movie for you?
Oh wow! Well, it's an homage, a French word, homage. H-O-M-A-G-E, homage, which is to honour French winemaking, French filmmaking, French lovemaking. All these things that the French have been doing for so long. As a New Zealand filmmaker, I'm talking about, and hopefully in a really slightly different, very energetic, very passionate way. Yeah, I mean it does, because it's life essentially, and it's robust. It's very strong, and you look at some of the shots in the film where a worm is doing its worm thing, or the bugs, and what nature does effortlessly, the way all of those creatures are existing together, and they're all living, and they're being born, and they're mating, and they're dying, and that this is just going on all around us all the time. I think it's great to be. It's a great reminder of how strong a life force is, also how vulnerable. And that wine, when you taste wine, literally you are tasting life. You're tasting the force of nature. The force of a tiny plant in sometimes quite hostile soil, just willing itself into existence, and you're tasting the will of the winemaker and the decisions of the winemaker and his care of the plant in order to get the essence of the plant, so that you in Tokyo, in a wine bar in Tokyo, can taste that. And I think that's sort of an exciting part of this movie, that afterwards people can go and drink wine and experience that a little bit more vividly. I mean, I hope so. I really hope that people get that from the film, because this is our humanity, and even this is a New Zealand book, a story set in a French landscape with an international cast, being shown to a Japanese audience, but I think that the human truth is there for all of us.
Yeah.